Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sales on Demand Show. I'm Adam Schneider. I'm the host. I'm the president. I'm the cook. I'm everything. The Sales on Demand Show is all about using print on demand to make money from home, from the comfort of your own office chair, your kitchen table, whatever it is, using print on demand, which is selling products that don't exist until someone actually buys them. Sales on Demand Show is weekly. You can find new episodes every single week at salesondemandshow.com for more information. Of course, you can go to salesondemandshow.com/start. That'll be a getting started video for you, teaching you the basics of print on demand, showing you how it works. I have training, but it is paid training, and of course the podcast is free. I don't charge for this. There's no subscriber content, and I share weekly tips all the time. I basically give away almost everything. But if you want the really good stuff, you can join my training program, salesondemandshow.com/AZ. Alright, so talking about this time, this is episode 94. We're going to talk about not what I originally wanted to talk about. I actually had an episode recorded and ready to drop, and I did not. I decided to delete it because I was not happy with the content, and I didn't want to release it, so that's why there wasn't a show last week. It's not that there wasn't one recorded, it's just that I decided not to release it, and going with this instead. So we're going to talk about virtual assistants and how to hire somebody to get your business moving. Now this, I think, is really important. This is something that you're just not going to find anything better that will scale your business up than hiring a virtual assistant. You can know a lot. You can be very motivated. You can be very, dedicated. You can be knowledgeable and experienced. But there's only so much that you as a person can do to make your business run. There's a lot of people out there who are one-man shows, and they're just limiting themselves by not having somebody on their team, not building a team. And I've actually talked about how to build $1 million business a long, long time ago. And a part of that is building a team of people who are doing some of the work for you so that you're not the only person there and everything relies on you, and so on and so forth. Of course, with print on demand, we do kind of rely on a team of people who print the products that we sell, unless you're printing your products yourself, in which case you really are a one-man show. Like, everything relies on you. And if, obviously you're not delivering it, but that's not what I'm talking about. There's benefits to this, and we'll talk about some of the benefits of using print on demand. But first, of course, let's talk about what's going on. It's January. It's a giant ball of suck. I don't know. I hate January. I mean, a lot of people in places where it's not cold in Canada, they're like, oh, it's raining, and it's really cold. And for them, cold is, a few degrees above the freezing point. I love that kind of weather. It rains so seldom here in Canada. I mean, most of the year, everything that falls from the sky is snow. So when I see rain, I'm delighted by it. I love sitting in the rain. I love the thunder, or even if there's no thunder, I love the sound and the smell of rain. I don't care if it's cold. I'll wear a jacket. At least you don't have to shovel rain off of the road. It doesn't pile up, and it just goes down the drain and cleans everything. But snow, it piles up on top, and then you can't see anything, and everything's just white. And it's, winter sports are fun, but I was made for gardening and green things and going outside and running and everything like that. And I'm missing my cardio workouts. I've been doing some weights and stuff, which is good. I mean, it's one half of my preferred workout. I like to be balanced. So I do weights and I do cardio. And I'm not amazing at either, but I'm all right. Trying to keep myself healthy and keep myself from degrading as fast as getting fat and lazy and unhealthy. And so, I got into running, and I had a treadmill, and I fixed the treadmill. It was broken, and I replaced one of the parts, and it was working. So I went out for a run a couple weeks ago, and after the run, I got off, and I was like, what is that smell? And my wife came downstairs, and she's like, why does it smell like plastic burning? And I realized it was the motor on the treadmill, which I had stressed too much when I was installing the part. I had testing the motor, I made it go too fast, and I kind of burned it out a little bit, shorted it out. So now I had to order a new motor, and it's not going to be here till mid-February. So that kind of puts a kibosh on me doing any running. And it is what it is. Like, the gyms are closed, which is stupid, but you deal with what's in front of you, right? So that's what's in front of me, and I make the best I can of what I've got. So that's what's going on with me, and now let's talk about what's selling. So we're closing in on February, which is Valentine's Day. Now, I don't want to make too much about Valentine's Day. It is a thing that people buy gifts for, and I did make decent number of sales with Valentine's Day last year. Last year was kind of the year that I really started to push hard with Etsy, and I started really working on it, and I did see significant progress. And I'm still seeing progress this year. I'm seeing more sales this year than I saw last year, and that was always my goal, is to be increasing in sales, time over time over time. So, the first year is the worst, the second year is better. Every year has to be better for me, or I'm sliding backwards. I don't want to have either the same or worse, because that means I didn't work hard enough, or I let things slip or something. So I am encouraged to see that, and sales are up on Etsy, 40% for me. On Amazon, it's not quite as dramatic, but it's up about 20% for the year, which, it's only been 27 days, but that's still something. Seeing an increase in sales is good, and I'm sure, things will fluctuate quite a bit, but I have been sending in loads of new products for Amazon FBA. I did talk about that in the last couple weeks. Of course, I have been printing some of my own mugs, but you don't have to do your own mug printing to send in Amazon FBA. There are ways to send in products, even if it's, either coffee mugs or some other product that sells well for you on Amazon, or maybe you want to test that out with an Etsy product that sells really well. There are ways to do that, and you can listen to some of the old episodes and get yourself an idea of what's how that works. So what I actually had talked about last week was what I thought would be the results of Joe Biden's presidency, but I just felt like I've kind of beaten that horse to death, and for all of the jabbering on about Trump and Biden and this and that and everything else, the who is president really doesn't matter that much. I mean, here in Canada, we have a prime minister who I don't really care for him, but it's not like he's knocking on my door every single day calling me names or anything like that. It's just he's some bureaucrat that works in a big office and spends tax money and gets us into debt. And I'm sure that's going to come back and haunt us someday. Anyway, sorry for the pause, everybody. I had to go and talk to the UPS pickup person who is picking up my FBA shipments going to the United States. So in other news, I guess, I did try doing some Amazon FBA with Canada. I sent 24 units, and they're sitting in the warehouse, but no sales from that yet. So I'm kind of wondering if that's going to work out like I hoped it would. I mean, if they don't end up selling, or if they end up selling really slow, really is not the end of the world to me, because experiments are great, and you got to try things. If they don't work, then they don't work. But I would have always wondered what would happen if I hadn't tried to sell through Amazon FBA, through Canada anyway. So now we just wait and see how things go. Alright, so of course you can get your free video and weekly tips when you join my email list, and information that is not included in the weekly podcast I'm going to be sending on my email as soon as I launch this show, with a tip that I'm not revealing on the podcast itself. So that'll be included in my weekly email list. You want to join that, head over to salesondemandShow.com/start. Plus you get that free video I talked about earlier. We talked about printing your own mugs, and the pros and cons of doing that. And of course, as you can tell, I'm still slightly out of breath from running out and meeting the UPS driver who is picking up my latest shipment. I now have shipped 200 and somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 and something units to Amazon in various places, and I've got another probably 30 or 40 waiting to be shipped. And it's really, really easy to do for me. And I've been testing a couple of things. I've been testing packaging. I've been using smaller cardboard boxes. I'm not sure if it's quite as good as I'd hoped. I did a couple drop tests yesterday, so I decided, okay, let's see if this coffee mug will survive a drop of 8 feet with just the box around it, and nope, it did not. So I'm gonna keep experimenting with that and see if I can get some good packaging that's not too big or expensive or hard to use. And that'll be part of the training, of course. Part of the training. So there we go. So in big news, giant news for me, I have finally gone and done it. The thing that I've been talking about for literally, probably 2 years now. I've been saying, I need to do this. I need to do this. Oh, I need to hire somebody. And then I didn't actually do it. Because talk is cheap. And, I'm not as diligent as I like to claim. I am just a human being, and I was reluctant in many ways to kind of give over my part of my business to someone else, because it's a lot of responsibility, having somebody working for you. There's a lot of, work that goes in on the hiring end, and then you've got to provide them with something to do so that, they're making money and they're occupying their time. Otherwise, what's the point of hiring somebody if you're not going to give them work? You're either not paying them for, depending on how you hire them. We'll talk about that too, of course. Different ways you can hire people and how you can manage their work and their time. And, communicating with them, all of that stuff. So this is going to be a multi-part episode series about hiring people, because I really think that it's worth going really in depth on this. It is a huge, huge thing that everybody, it doesn't matter whether this is a part-time thing for you, you should be at least thinking about this. Should be in the back of your mind as something that you're planning to do, that you know how to do, you'd be comfortable doing it if you had to. It is part of my training program, how to hire somebody and where you go to actually make that happen. Now that I've done my own hire, I know the process, and I'm going to be adding more and more information to the training on that so that you'll be very comfortable. I may even include some free videos that you can use for your employee to show them how to do things. So that is something I've debated. Video training is becoming a big thing of mine. Big things are happening right now. Like, I'm being contacted by my mentors who are saying, hey, listen, we want to get you on board with projects that we're doing. We see that you're doing valuable work with other people, and we want to have you part of this team too. So I'm very, very excited about that. It is proof of what I've been doing, and it's kind of a culmination. It's the start of a culmination of all the work I've been putting in for the last 2 years of running this podcast. So, yeah, I'll probably talk about that more later. But in terms of hiring somebody, of course, my big announcement is that I have hired my virtual assistant. I hired a part-time, 20-hour per week person, and the reason that I did that instead of doing anything else, I'll talk about why I did a half-time instead of a full-time, and the ways that you can do that. But there's basically two different options when you're hiring somebody as to how you pay them and how you manage their work. But first, of course, I got to talk about why you should hire somebody. Well, the truth is, like I said before, nobody can possibly do all of the work themselves. And you are not. I mean, you might be good at your business, but you just can't possibly put in the time. Your motivation may flag, and the truth is that anybody trying to do something alone, you're not going to be as effective as if you had somebody with you. People working together can motivate and drive each other on. And this is true no matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to be a business-related thing. It could just be like a competition. It could be, you're in the gym. I use gym analogies because that's what I do a lot. You're in the gym and you're working out alone, so you're not really putting that much effort into your sets, and maybe you're, leaving off the last rep or something like that. So instead of doing, 12 curls with that weight, you're doing 10, and you're like, it's good enough. Well, and for men, this is really true. But when someone else is in there, you're like, oh man, I want this person to be impressed by me, and it's not even a conscious thing. It really isn't. You're just going to put more effort into your workout when someone is there watching you. You're going to. And hopefully you're not pretending to put more effort, but you're actually putting that effort. And it's just a psychological thing that works with all human beings. I'm not saying this is a criticism of people. This is how we were designed to work. And there is even a verse in the Bible that says, one person has a little bit reward for their effort, but I'll have to find this. Let me go find that for you. All right, here we go. So this is Ecclesiastes 4:12. It says, though one person might be overpowered, two can defend themselves, and a cord made of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So to me, that tells me that building a team builds resilience into a business, it builds redundancy into a business, and it makes your business more solid, so that it's not constantly relying on your presence to run. So this is important to me because my family and I, we depend on this business for our livelihood. I mean, this is all that I'm making money from. I don't have a full-time job anymore. I barely have a part-time job. The Army pays me like less than minimum wage to do the training stuff, which is fine. I don't even count on that money. I basically put it into savings. It's not even part of our budget. And I'm relying on my own efforts to make money, and some of my efforts are based on hours and dollars per hour, but a lot of my effort is running the business and building that business in such a way that hopefully it can run without my presence, because if something happens to me, I don't want my family's income to just suddenly be cut off. And, there is a risk of that. If you are incapacitated or you are taken out, something happens to you, you're not able to run the business, or you just decide you get sick one week and you just can't get out of bed or something, you got to go to the hospital, you're in a vegetative state, I don't know. There's lots of different possibilities, but you're going to need someone who's capable of taking over and doing the business stuff, or your income basically stops. So there's a lot of different things that you can build into your business that create that resilience. One of them, of course, is automation. So I use like automation with GearBubble, and some, there is some automation with other suppliers. I have a couple of suppliers that I rely on for customization, but I still have to perform some of the tasks to make that work. So if I was not able to do it, then I need someone who can. And I've talked to my wife, and I'm like, hey, listen, if I was gone for a week, can you take over? Can you answer messages? And she's like, I don't know. I don't really want to do that. And I'm like, well, I kind of need someone to do it. But the problem is that whoever you get to do it is somebody that, if you're just trying to get a family member to do it, that their heart's not really in it, right? You need somebody who is, they're like, I want to do this for you. So just trying to get some family member to do it is not a long-term plan, even if you have somebody who can do it. If you do have somebody in your family who is able to handle the business side of things, that's good, and you should recruit that person. In fact, I would rather recruit a family member than to recruit some stranger. But here's the thing, if you can't get a family member, or your family members are kind of unreliable, or they're just not interested in your business, then you do have to recruit a stranger, in a sense. And then you got to start building a team of people who can take over and do the business when you're not there, or if you wanted to do something else, you're like, I want to do another project, but this print-on-demand thing, I committed to it, and it's working for me, I'm making money, but it takes my focus off of my other projects. For me, this is one of the reasons. I want to focus more on creating my content, working with this podcast, and running the business side of things does get in the way of that. So, if I'm spending all day doing whatever, creating new listings and uploading and doing all this stuff, doing customization, sending out orders, it distracts me from what is a more fun project, and which is, of course, creating business content like the podcast. And it has resulted in me missing weeks or having my podcast come out late or whatever. So that is a concern for me, because this is important to me. This isn't a hobby. I don't treat this podcast like a hobby. This is a business for me, and I intend to make money from it, and I intend to do it intentionally, creating valuable content, adding that content to my training, charging for the training, but of course adding more value than I'm charging in money, but having the skills and the knowledge to pass on to the people who listen to it. The more people that benefit from this podcast, the better. So if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, just understand that this is not a hobby for me, and I intend to treat this, and I have been treating it like it's a real business. And, it's about time I started treating my own print-on-demand business like it's a real business. And that means that hiring somebody was kind of part of that process. So what I did was I went on Upwork, and I'll share this story because it's kind of an interesting look into what the world looks like right now. So I went to a website called onlinejobs.ph, and it's basically a site to hire Filipino virtual assistants. And it's just for Filipinos. So I'm pretty sure that anybody who signs up to be a virtual assistant has to live in the Philippines, which is fine. I don't think that that's a problem. And the people in the Philippines, they work very hard. One of the hardest things for me was like, okay, now I have like a whole bunch of qualified people. How do I find the right person? Like, all these people are qualified. Their English is great. They're all capable of doing the job. How do I pick one? So I'll talk about that too in a bit. But let's first talk about the two different ways to actually hire somebody. So the first way is the way that I'm doing it now, which is hiring somebody based on a salary per hour, or like a weekly basis, where that person's going to put a number of hours into the business, and they're more of a real employee than anyone else. Like the person that I've hired, he's a student, and he's young, but he's diligent, and he's an electrical engineer student. So I don't know if he's going to stick with me forever, but this is just the first person I'm going to hire. This is not the last person I'm ever going to hire. So I'm going to go through this process a bunch of times. I've already made up my mind that that's the way that my business is going to run. I'm going to start handing off tasks and things to other people to do. And I'm going to release that from my control and give it over to them. And this is sort of the first experiment. So you can hire somebody on a salary basis. And the reason that you would want to do that is if you want to give this person a bunch of different tasks to do, it's easier for them. It's easier to do it on a per hour basis than it is on a per action basis. So the two ways to hire somebody as an assistant are, number one, you can hire somebody to do a bunch of actions for you. Now, this might be something that you would do if you were just starting out. Hiring somebody per action is something that you would do first starting out, like I said, and you might say, okay, I want you to upload these designs to GearBubble. That's the one I always recommend that you start out with. When you're creating your designs, you're going to put them in a folder. You give them a title. You give them a title that's going to be put onto Amazon or Etsy, and then you hand that over to somebody to do the uploading. Then they upload it to GearBubble. They do all the check boxes and stuff like that. Then they upload it from there to Amazon and Etsy. So that is going to be one of the tasks that this virtual assistant is going to be doing. But I also am going to rely on this guy for some research stuff. And I might even get him to do some order creation and start really taking over various aspects of my business. I think that, I'm going to need somebody when things get busy to start sending out orders. I just don't want to be distracted by all of this stuff if I can avoid it. So that's going to be important. And that would be one of the reasons to hire somebody on a salary basis. If you want them to do a bunch of different tasks and you're like, okay, well, it's going to be too complicated for me to decide how much you're going to get paid per task, you may want to just have them as an actual employee on a full-time basis. Then they get the work done that they can in the time that they have available. It just makes it easier for them to know how long it's going to take them. They don't end up stressing out because they can't get the work done or something like that. And I think it's going to work better for me. But we'll see. I'm willing to flex if I need to, and maybe the next person I hire, I won't hire them on a salary basis if I decide that wasn't working well for me. But I think it is going to work in this case, and I'm willing to give it a shot even for a year just to see how things work. And I'm pretty sure that this is how most large teams are built, is that they're hiring people mostly on a salary basis, just like with any large company. You hire people, you train them, you give them a salary, which means that they have a predictable amount of money coming in, and you kind of, I hate to say it this way, but you have a little bit more ownership of that person as an employee than if they're just freelancing for you. So, if you hire a graphic designer, for example, and you're like, okay, I would like you to perform, design these 6 designs for me, and I'll pay you per design. So you pay the person per design, they turn in the work, and that's the end of your relationship. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to hire you as a graphic designer, I'm going to pay you 8 hours a day, and you just work for me creating designs based on the ideas that I give you. That's a relationship that you can keep moving forward with long term, and that person will get better at their job, they'll be more productive over time, and they have a predictable workday. They have a predictable life. I mean, these are real people we're talking about. They're not just robots, sitting in some cubicle somewhere punching out numbers or doing work like that. You got to treat these assistants like they're real people and understand that their productivity is kind of based on their motivation. So I think going forward, I'll probably do a combination of salary and a commission basis. This is something that I was trying to do, with my family or with, someone local. I really wanted to hire someone local to do this because I was like, okay, I would rather send my money to somebody that's my neighbor or something like that, rather than try and hire somebody that's halfway across the world. But nobody responded. I put the ad out there. I was like, I'm hiring somebody, come work for me. It's going to be like $20 an hour, plus you get commission, all this stuff. I was making it real juicy. And nobody responded to the ad. And that's pretty common. People right now, they say they want work, but if they go start working, then they lose their benefits if they're on some kind of employment or something like that, or if they're receiving money for not working because of COVID, they're like, well, I don't really want to go to work because I'll lose that, and then I have to work. So the incentives for people to work in North America, not great, but they're not doing that in the Philippines. Nobody is, the Filipino government is not sending out money, at least, I don't think they are, to their people, and there are lots of people who want to do the work. And I'm happy to provide somebody with, some money to help their family or whatever it is that they need. And I even told this fellow that I hired, I'm like, listen, if you're finding that the pay is not good enough for you, come talk to me. I'm not adverse to negotiating, more money. And if you find you need, I said, if you need some time, take a week off, or something like that, just let me know how things are with you, and I'm willing to work with you to make this relationship, beneficial for both of us. I'm not hiring you so that you can just benefit me. I want you to be, maybe not an equal partner, but, benefiting from this relationship in a way that's tangible and real, and so that you're not going to regret taking this job, and you're not going to be grumpy about it. I want him to be happy. I want him to be excited. I want him to be like thrilled to get up in the morning and do work for me, because he's like, man, I like what this guy's doing. I'm on board with the vision of this company, and that produces more valuable work from somebody if they're really like engaged in what you're doing. So I've decided to go all in with this, and I'm going to be pushing really hard. I'm going to be spending a lot more time in the beginning to train this person on what to do and create some training content that I can pass on to new employees. If and when I hire someone else for the business, then I'll have content and videos and workflows and stuff like that, so that when I do hire somebody else, then I don't have to recreate this from the beginning. And I do recommend doing that. And of course, I talked about how I've got this content in my training program, and I will be adding to it as well. So you probably will have access to videos that you can use for your own employees to show them how to do things, and show you how to do things as well, so that you know what to do, what to say, and how to manage your workers when you do decide to hire somebody. So I'll just talk about the priority list that I'm using for my person. So basically, the first thing they're going to do is do uploading. So I'm going to have them actually upload my new designs to GearBubble, and then send those designs from GearBubble to Amazon and Etsy. So he's going to click the upload button after they're all uploaded. Now, it's not super interesting, but there won't be more than there might be 10 to 15 new designs a day at the most. So it's not going to be a huge amount of work, and it's probably not going to fill much more than, maybe an hour, hour and a half of the 4 hours, and that's fine. However long it takes is how long it takes. So it's all good. If there's only 5, then it'll take like half an hour, and if there's more, then it'll take longer, of course. But that's not really a big deal. It's obviously going to be based on how many I can produce in any given day or week or whatever, and then when it's done, I'll add more. This will also encourage me to keep creating new designs to be added to my store. So this will be like, okay, I know that this guy is going to need more work, and here's some more designs to add to the store. So that's going to be great. For me, it's going to take a lot of burden off my shoulders and create a workflow that really scales up how many listings I've got. Now, the next thing, of course, that I was looking at him doing is finding FBA ideas using a special secret tool that I have access to with a program called the Low Hanging System, or I'm a coach. So I can't even tell you what this is, because I can't give you access to it. I literally cannot. However, you don't need a secret special tool. If you have your virtual assistant go on Amazon and do a bunch of keyword searches, like dad mug, mom mug. You can even use merchant words, and you can use these tools to go and see what's on Amazon and judge the competition for yourself. You could do the same thing. It may take a little bit longer than it will for me because of my super secret special tool, but it's still possible to do it. That's another thing. Then I'm going to give my assistant, I've given my assistant a list of, jobs, hobbies, and all kinds of different niches, and I'm going to say, all right, now here's a couple places to do some searching, and I want you to research and find phrases from these keywords and then put them in the spreadsheet. And that will basically fill up most of the rest of the 4 hours. And I'm also going to have have him do some product creation using another software tool that I'm paying for, but I'm not using because I don't have time to do it. And I'm going to get him to create a bunch of products using that software tool. So a lot of this, most of it in fact, is going to be adding new listings, research, and all of that stuff for the business. And in terms of sending out orders for products that are already in place, I might add that down the road, but I haven't put it in place yet. So that's where I'm at right now. And you know what? That's good enough for the time being. And it looks like I've hit the half an hour mark, so I'm going to call it a day now. But I've talked about, a lot this session, and next week I'm going to talk about how to hire somebody. So I've talked about why you should hire somebody, and I've emphasized that it expands your business, it motivates you to do more work and better work, and it produces resiliency and redundancy in your business. It makes your business more stable over the long term. It scales it up faster, and it really is what people who are successful in business, this is what they're doing. The big guys are hiring people to do work for them. So you should too. If somebody is doing something and they're successful with that, do what they're doing. And this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to be successful with it, and I'll report that success to you. So next week we'll talk about how, the nuts and bolts of doing this, and how you can do it for yourself. And that is it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. As always, weekly episodes are found salesondemandshow.com. This is also coming out on YouTube, Stitcher, a whole bunch of podcast apps, including Spotify. So check it out. Whatever your favorite listening app is, subscribe, download, and just keep in touch with me. This is the #1 podcast in Mongolia for business. Sorry, not the #1, but I'm in the top 100 of podcasts, business podcasts in Mongolia. I don't have any idea what that even means, but if you're listening from Mongolia, man, I would love for you to send me a message. Go to salesondemandshow.com and just pop a comment in there if you're from Mongolia. I saw that on Spotify, and I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. So yeah, that's kind of funny. But we'll see you next week talking more about how to hire someone as a virtual assistant. So until then, cheers.